All right, final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, and the Grappler himself in studio. All grown up.
Yeah, somehow found my way in here.
Look at that suit. It is a marvelous suit.
And it's still in half decent shape.
It's intact.
It's I mean, other than just like a little bit of kind of, makeup from the hugs and kisses through the day on Saturday, it's actually not in bad shape. The only thing missing is the boutonniere. No idea where that went.
That's all good. So is that the tie you gave to Al's brother?
That is the tie I gave to Al's brother. Then put that around my head, back around my neck, and now I'm wearing it today. None of which has been dry cleaned.
Okay,
so
good.
It's got a bit of a stench to it. So
yeah.
Does that tie have the meat sweats?
Oh, for sure.
It's got the everything sweats.
You should have seen the size of the steak that arrived at the table for everybody.
That was the biggest steak I've ever seen at a wedding, like at an event like that.
Usually it's small and, kind of like, hey, it's fancy looking. This thing was the size of the plate.
I felt like John Candy.
Yeah, you were eating a 96er.
I was trying
literally
to eat the 96er.
where you were eating.
Yeah, I had multiple people tell me that Al's brother's steak was the size of his face.
Yeah,
it legitimately
that's a big
was.
steak.
I think it disappeared. I don't know for sure.
Allegedly, he went to work.
Well, like the charcuterie board was a great touch.
There was
and
a
Al's brother,
board.
although you've made it, and there's something associated with you. When I posted on Instagram, like a picture of myself and Al's brother holding up the charcuterie, and I must have had 50 messages. Where are the wings?
Oh, yeah.
No wings, question mark? Like everyone wanted wings on that charcuterie
It's like
board.
It's not a charcuterie board unless it has wings now.
Al's brother's changed the world, right? Yeah. He's changed the way we look at a charcuterie board. All right, quickly, because you're asking about the Duthie clip that we play in the intro to Confirm or Deny,
right?
Where Duthie asks John Ferguson Jr., "Do you regret?" and then goes on to ask him a question that he's blatantly going to regret, right? Do you regret giving all of those players no trade clauses? And we don't have the exact quote in response here, Grappler, but
we got a transcript.
Yeah, we have kind of a transcript. Like, what was the gist of how Fergie responded to that really groundbreaking question?
Yeah, incredible work by JD. So the I guess not quite transcript, but so Ferguson responded, "No, he does not regret signing players to those deals because other teams would have offered them." And then he goes on to say to more or less blame the players for the poor season. Special teams need to be better. Goaltending needed to be better. And if that had all happened and gone a different way, then the Leafs would have been in contention.
All right. So he had an answer for it that other teams would have done it, and then he had other.
And if the players played better, that we would have been in the playoffs.
Right.
And I think looking back, we know that no other teams would not have done that.
Well, who knows? I mean, and Kaber got hurt that year, I guess, too, right? Did he reference Brian McCabe getting hurt?
Yeah,
Kaber's in a Cup final.
I was just going to say, Kaber might have a chance to get a ring in his khaki pants and his fading hairpiece.
Can you imagine him at the draft with a cup ring?
Oh, and that golf shirt and the khakis and the belt.
And on the other side of it, as people have pointed out, even though he's not playing, Phil Kessel will absolutely be on the Cup.
Absolutely.
Again, he won 2 in Pitt, but he played all 82 games. He's played 4 playoff games. That gets him on.
He's been a healthy scratch right through right now, but there's a guy would get his 3rd Cup. I wonder if he'd bring it to Toronto.
I think he played that card the first time. Remember, he ate hot dogs out of it.
He doesn't need to do that again.
I don't think he cares about Toronto.
I don't think
that's such a long time. I mean, when did he get traded? It was
a while back.
Yeah, it's been since like 15 or 16 when Shanahan got here. It's been a long time, and he did come back, and I think he came back in good faith the first time. Like, he loved this time in Toronto.
Took it to the Children's Hospital.
Yeah, that's right.
Stuff that, I mean, he liked it here.
Yeah,
he did. I mean, he moved on, won a couple Stanley Cups. Good for him. And you're right. Like, now Jack Eichel has an opportunity for his 1st Cup.
That's right.
Like, there's a lot of storylines.
A lot of possibilities here. A lot of possibilities. Meanwhile, the Leafs are still looking for a GM. Yeah. And we can't confirm or deny if John Ferguson Jr. has been given a sniff, but possibly, right? I would assume at a minimum.
Not possibly.
You got to think
We can't rule it out.
We got it.
I can neither confirm or deny that.
You got to think he sent a text to Shanahan, like a "you up" text.
You up? ...
You up? Confirm or deny? Imagine that's how he.
Confirm or deny? You up? Mark.
That's his flirting. You up? Confirm or deny?
Just to deny.
Hard you look beautiful tonight. Confirmed. All right. So we came up with this idea basically based on how ridiculous it would be if one of us got a chance to interview for the job.
Great.
Right? And we posted a poll question, and I think the results were, people were...
It landed at about 60% more embarrassing if you were Leafs GM, 40% more embarrassing if if O were interviewing to be the Leafs GM.
Right. So, and I think that makes sense. O's an alumni, played in the league. I got 60%. O still picks up a decent chunk. 40% of people think would be insulted as Leaf fans if O got interviewed to be the GM. But until there actually is a GM in place, technically this is a possibility.
And I would like to thank the Leafs for not making an announcement on their GM since we, came up with this idea.
Right, exactly. And you brought your suit in. So you look good. You look presidential, and you're going to play the role of Grappler a hand.
Yeah.
Shanna Grapple.
Yeah, we should have figured out the official Grappler Shanahan moniker.
The Shanna Grappler.
Shanna Grapp.
And you're going to go around the table and pose a few questions. We don't need this to go on forever. We'll get a decent idea of where we stand on all this stuff. Oh, do you want to go first?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Fire away,
And
Grappler.
JP, you make sure you're listening intently. You're going to give a grade afterwards to see how we actually work out as prospective GMs.
Okay, let's get a roll in here. So I think, very standard question for any interview process is talk to me about your strengths and weaknesses as GM.
My strengths are very simple, the Grappler. I've been a part of this game my whole life. I played in the league for 12 years. And I've been studying the game intently for the last 12, being an analyst. Not from what I did on the ice. I know what works and I know what doesn't. And I know there's a certain style of play. I also know that if you think 4 players are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and scoring in the playoffs, and that's going to lead you to the promised land, doesn't work. My weaknesses are I have no time for time wasters, jerks, or others. It gets me in trouble. I'm impatient. So I want to win now. So let's rock.
Okay.
Okay, I can't argue with that. And I'd just like to say, I know you constantly mention that you talk to a number of people from around the game that we wouldn't even know. So I do believe that you would get, I guess insightful.
That's a strength.
Insightful insight, I don't think is a phrase, but I'm going to go with it anyways.
Yeah. I think
it's
that
also
would benefit
the
him.
truth.
It's the truth.
All right, there you go. He's connected. He's
All
very
right.
connected.
Do I answer
Noodles.
the same question?
Strengths and weaknesses.
I think I'm well connected in the game. The game is all about relationships. And yes, you have to have a philosophy to win, but it's how you manage up and manage down. So yes, I've come from a wealth of experience. I've been in the front office before. I've coached. I've played in the league, all of that type of stuff. But it's more about how you build your team to have success in the regular season and the playoffs. And you pick you choose the right players to build around. Would I change some of the things? That might be a later question.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think we'll get to that at some point.
creating a program where people want to be here and buy in, and I always disarm people with the truth. You go right at it. If you have a problem with somebody, you call them in, you talk to them, you give them the truth, the square. They always know where they're going to stand with me. It's honesty. It's going right at somebody. That's the way I would treat it.
Okay, and weaknesses.
Weaknesses would be...
You weren't expecting this one.
No.
Weaknesses. Come on, man.
I'm fine with the weaknesses. Would be I would have to stay within my lane. Okay, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, so I would try and hire people that would be able to handle things. I do have a soft spot where I do get married to certain situations. I'd have to get away from that, where you have to have a thought process where you're not tied to a relationship. It's like it's a hard decision. That's where my weakness would be, is I'd have to be able to cut ties with people that I really cared about.
Okay.
Let's hear from Bozo the Clown now.
All right. So now that we're done with the cliched answers that are not intriguing for
Okay,
anybody.
let's hear Bozo the
Let's hear
Clown.
some
Go ahead.
actual
Put your
strengths and
fake nose
weaknesses.
on. Put your red
You want to hear a
nose on.
strength? You want to hear a strength? I know how to goof on every team in this league better than anyone on earth, which means I know the weaknesses of every other team in the league, including the team that you currently run.
Oh, wow.
I know all of the weaknesses, and I know how to pinpoint those weaknesses. Well, it's a fact of the matter, Brendan Grappler a hand. You haven't won a damn thing. But here's what I will do for you. I'll fall on the sword for you. That's a strength. I will fall on the sword. I will be very compelling. The marketplace will love me. You know why? Because I grew up in the city of Toronto. I'm not from St. Albert. I'm not from King City. I'm from Toronto. Toronto. And that's what this city needs, and that's what this city
this guy
wants.
sounds like Trump. He's an idiot.
I'm a populist. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to change something. You haven't won anything here for a long time. So that type of strength. Also, I understand that what you've been doing here simply can't work. And that's a part of your program because you've been here for 9 years, I'll fall in the sword. I'll change it for you.
And just to cut you off there, in your in your soon to be previous career as a radio and television host, I know you've fallen on the sword several times for your producers. So
Yes, I do that. I do that all the time.
You may do that in a general
more than
manager
willing
What's
role.
his
He
weakness?
pushes everyone else on the sword. He's a fraud. Go
I
ahead,
lift
Bill.
all boats up. That's what I do.
What's his weakness?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm really intrigued here.
Weakness?
You grew up in Toronto and you're a fan.
That's probably it.
And you can't fall in love with that.
That's
You
part
can't-
of it.
You have
Your
to
heart
think
is gonna get-
outside the box.
That's true. You want to hear the weakness?
Heart's going to get in the way.
I'd probably upgrade my dad's seats. I'd probably make sure that people around me are in the building all the time. You know what I'd definitely do? The alumni box would be completely different. I'd step in immediately and I'd completely overhaul the
free
alumni
coats.
box.
No
Okay,
free
that
coats.
is-
By how?
That is-
Penne pesto every night?
That is something that may come up later in this conversation.
Yes,
the
but those
alumni.
jackets, they're changing. They're going to change. I don't know, dude. Like, how do I honestly answer this with honesty here? Am I a fan? Yes. Would I be overly emotional? Yes. And that's probably the truth. If I
That's
had
all
the
you
job,
had to say, you
That's
dummy.
probably the weakness.
Okay, yeah, I can't argue with any of that. All right, so I do have 4 questions here. I think for the, just taking into account time, I'll just ask you each one of this kind of list of 4 main questions.
Yes.
And then I've got a
One
wild
each.
card for each of you to wrap things up. So,
Perfect.
what are you looking for in a head coach?
I am looking for a head coach that knows how to operate a bench and not just starts his star players in the offensive zone. And I'm looking also for a coach who isn't afraid to make a comment that's truthful and won't back it up in situations where he feels some of his star players are offended. It's not that hard to coach in this league. Your best players log the majority of the ice time. The defense coach handles the defense back there, but I'm going to put my players in a position to win. And by no means will I ever back up a comment if there's any critical comments moving forward. Thank you.
Anyone else care to weigh in on that? What they are looking for in the head coach?
I think that actually was a pretty good answer.
I can't argue with any of that.
Pretty good answer.
Accountability would be my thing. And style. This team needs a stylistic change of the way that they play.
Yeah.
Good addition. Good addition.
I'd go
I'll
with
add
a cup winner, too. I'll add that because that's all I care about. Right? These guys want to sell tickets and jerseys and all that kind of stuff. I want to win a Stanley Cup. I want to make the Leafs great again.
There's Ronnie Trump again.
Ronnie Trump. This guy's Ronnie Trump.
Donnie Hayes.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, it worked. It did work in 16.
All right, Noodles. How do you plan to handle Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander?
Well, 34 is the key for me because you've got to get him signed to term and you've got to keep that number respectable so that you can actually surround him with good players. Marner's set. I have no problem with Mitch Marner. It comes back to the coach and the style that they're going to play. He'll be able to get Marner to buy into what he needs to do. Nylander's the interesting one for me because the way I look at it is Tavares, 2 more years in that contract, you're staying with that. He's going to be your second line center or a winger that you bring in. I think it's Nylander that I might look at. If I can extend him at a reasonable number, I will do it. If not, I move him for a defenseman. And a defenseman that can help round out my defensive core will be the biggest focus moving forward. Because we see it throughout the league right now. You're winning on quality defensive cores. And goaltending, obviously, and top-end talent. They've got the top-end talent. Guy named Austin Matthews, John Tavares. If Willie Nylander doesn't want to sign an extension here, and it's his right, then you do something with that situation. But it's all about the defensive core.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that with Vegas, too. Like, top 3, top 5 defensive core in the league. Panthers, not so much. But, yes, Vegas, pretty solid example of a team that's winning with its defense. Mm-hmm. Hayes, anything to add to that?
I want to say I'd build a wall around the core for it and I'd make the Buffalo Sabres pay for it. That's probably where I would want to go with this. But if I'm being truthful, here's what I would say.
I mean, you'd rule yourself out from being the Sabres GM with that.
Yeah, well, I don't care about the Buffalo Sabres. That's their problem, not mine. I go to Austin Matthews and I have a very blunt conversation with him. And I say, I need you to change the culture. You change it more than I can. Me coming in here as the GM, there's only so much I can do. You're in the room. The players aren't going to look up to me. They're going to look up to you. You've been paid. We're going to pay you. We're going to make you the highest paid player in the league based on, average annual value, 12.7 per. But if it's any higher than that, you're telling me you don't really want to win here. And I will have that blunt conversation with him, and I will convince him to sign an 8-year deal at $12.7 million per.
Yeah, he's not doing that.
That's going to happen.
What if you
lock it in?
But what if
give me
you
the
can't-
job?
What
right
if you
now.
can't?
I will
What if you
also,
can't
as
convince
the
him?
future GM of
will.
this team, look to change up the complete dynamic of the team. You have too much money locked up into too few players. And the one thing you will see about the two teams that are playing in the finals, there's a bunch of really good players up and down the lineup, not reclamation projects that you're picking up off of scrap heaps, trying to hit home runs off of with Sergei Sergentsevs and
Who?
Yevgeny
You
Malkin.
can't, this guy can't be your GM. He's making up names.
Who's
There's no, there's
What is this, Freddie Grubauer?
Anyway, I'm not bringing in a bunch of little guys that run around and they're little spiders on the ice. I'm not doing it. They need a bunch of good players rather than thinking those 4 players are, like I said, are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 in playoff scoring, because it's not happening, hasn't happened in the past, and won't happen in the future.
Okay.
Sleepy Jeff O'Neill.
Pretty well. All right, moving
Low
on.
energy Jeff O'Neill.
Prospective GM candidate Bryan Hayes. What is your plan for the goaltending?
Tell you what, Joseph Wall, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Joseph
There's your opening
Wall.
night starter.
I have a big belief in Joseph Wall. But you know what I'm going to do? Because you probably want me to give you an answer on Samsonov, on Matt Murray, and what's going to happen this year. But I'm going to do something different than any other GM's done in this city in 30 years. I'm going to build up a program that actually starts growing goaltenders from within. You look at the best goalies in the league, generally speaking, they play for the team that they were drafted for and they were developed for. You look at the guys who have had long-standing success. It never happens with this team.
Okay,
yes,
so what are you going to do, moron? Are you going to start drafting a goalie once in the first 3 rounds every year?
Yeah, well, that might be a
and-
philosophy, yeah. And I'm going to hire the best
and I
people
guess
available.
I guess my concern with building a good program of goaltending is this is a team that's ready to win now.
Yeah.
So will it not take too long for that goaltending to develop to actually help this?
Listen, you
current
can't build
team?
Rome overnight. So obviously there's going to be some patchwork moving forward. I think Joseph Wall is a good goalie. We'll see what he's actually made of. Samsonov, I'm not going to overpay him, and I'm not giving him term. I'll tell you that right now. I'll give him a 2-year deal tops. If he doesn't like it, he can leave. I'll go get someone else. In fact, Tristan Jarry is available as a UFA this summer.
Yeah.
Might look into that.
I heard O's a big fan of
I
his.
want to be on the record as
I'm
the
not
first
looking
GM to
into
mention
that.
him.
And the next goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs will be an established goaltender. I will kick around. Maybe I'll sniff around. I'll fly out to Winnipeg and get stung by mosquitoes, and I'll talk to Connor Hellebuck. I'm not sure, but I will want
Pampering?
I want an established guy. Once again, no more reclamation projects. Those are done and over with.
Yeah, I think it's a trade, potentially. Call Calgary because Dustin Wolf's won the MVP of the league twice now, so maybe they want to head in a different direction with Vladar and Wolf, and maybe Markstrom is available. If not, you look at Hellebuck's situation, look at Tristan Jarry. To me, there are organizations that would part with veteran goaltenders. You keep Joseph Wall because he needs waivers, so it's a veteran guy playing with a young guy, and that'll be the tandem situation, depending on how good of a veteran you can grab. If it's Hellebuck, you're obviously going to have to pay a king's ransom. Maybe that's in I wanted the top end player for the D, but maybe the goaltender is factored into a situation like that too. But I don't know if you qualify Samsonov, if you keep him, but it's got to be on a short-term deal and not a huge number.
Okay. Good stuff from across the board here. All right, we got a few more wild card questions here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Starting with the O-Dog. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator.
Oh, if Doug Gilmour calls you offering advice on how to be GM of the team, how are you responding to that advice?
I would call Doug and say, actually, Doug, I have an office right beside mine. I'd like you to come sit in it and be a senior advisor. We can hang out. We can go for lunch, talk hockey, and I would love to absorb the ideas that you have and different philosophies you would have. And that would be the case for all alumni that wanted to have input on things as far as hockey goes.
Really? Every
Yeah.
alumni gets a job.
Yeah,
In
and you
Lion
will
Jeff O'Neill's.
as someone else mentioned, the alumni jackets will be different they'll be even better.
But hold on, I got to ask.
And every player will get 2. One of each color I pick.
So if John Ferguson Jr. calls and offers you advice.
Oh, yeah, he is an alumni. I guess he never played, though. He didn't play.
But he was a member of the organization. Doesn't that count as
Hey, you're the
alumni?
president. Why am I?
And I will
I
say
should
my
know that.
last and final thing. The alumni, every night in the box, there will be, what are those things, Hazy? The shrimp? Or the
what were those little one? They were 3-biters, but they were being taken down in 1-biters. What were those called?
I haven't been in there. Don't look at me.
Like vegetable rolls?
Yeah, like rolls.
spring rolls.
Spring rolls?
That's what it was, a spring roll.
Spring
Guys,
rolls
spring
and
rolls
penny
never 3
pesto.
bites.
Spring rolls and penny pesto every night is a promise across the board.
That's tough to beat, man. That's
Okay,
tough
well,
to
I
beat.
mean, just considering we were talking about the alumni box, that does lead me into my next wild card question directed at Bryan Hayes.
Yes.
How would you change the alumni box?
Well, again, the jackets would be changed.
Yeah.
Immediately. The jackets would be changed.
Guy wore a jacket, he'd be kicked out of the building.
Possibly, I'd have strict jacket rules, and the alumni time, it might move around the building. That's prime. I kind of want that spot if I'm the GM.
That's where Bill Hayes is going to
That's where I'm going to put my dad, my family, and that kind of stuff. Family and friends are going to go in there. The alumni, they'll probably move around. I got a lot of time and respect for the alumni. I love the alumni. I love a pesto chicken in there. That I can guarantee. He's trying to steal my material because he went first.
No, understand.
Spring rolls, absolutely. 3-biters that can be taken down in a 1-bite if you're a veteran, if you really know how to take care of business.
You're chewing like a duck.
But the hospitality will not change at all because it's the best in the business. There is no better place on earth when it comes to hospitality than in the alumni box.
Tyler, who runs the alumni box, he'll be
my
associate.
assistant.
That's
I was going to say, big promotion on
He
tap
will be
for
the
Tyler.
special assistant to the owner/general manager.
Agreed. We're seeing eye to eye here.
Yeah, this could be like a GM, AGM
like a code
situation here.
And Joanne, who you met, Hayes,
I
she
love
will run
Joanne.
all of security
Yep.
around the building.
I totally agree with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got one more wild card question.
All
It's
right.
for Noodles.
Yeah.
Game starts, couple goalies go down. You are called out of your box to be the e-bug. How do you respond?
I say no chance. I mean,
Really?
that's the thing. Why would I?
That's a true team player right
Disappointing.
there. But keeping in mind, you may have to
That
forfeit
just
the
took
game.
him out of the running. Out of the running.
You would have to put one of your skaters in net.
Because when I take over as manager, the first thing I'd be doing at those GM meetings is getting rid of the ridiculous e-bug situation.
But do you think you'd
And
get
make
enough
it so
support
you
from
can-
around the league for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's embarrassed the league before, and that has to change. So even before you get to the games, that rule will change. As I would
Interesting.
have, or for my e-bug situation, I would find a way to have a guy who was in the stands, who was a rock star, maybe a guy who played pro a little bit, but now he's working a job that kind of at MLSE. You could bring him in.
Now, what if I, come over the top and tell you need to go in net?
I would go in, obviously, but
There you
why
go.
the hell would you want me in there? Like
I mean, pretty much you just be a body to get through the rest of the game. You know you're not winning the game.
well, that's debatable. Depending if my team is really good,
I guess
they will,
depends
they
on
will
the
block
team around
shots.
you.
They will-
David Ayers won a game in the National Hockey
I was just
Why
going to
can't
say
Noodles
David
do it?
Ayers did that, and other than giving up that goal to Pierre Engvall, and Pierre Engvall rode his stick down the
Yeah.
boards like
He
Tiger,
did Tiger Williams.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yes, I would do it for the team that I was the manager of, 100%. But I'm still suspended. I'd have to talk to the league.
That's
Bob.
valid.
Okay, I'll look into that for you.
All right, there
okay.
you go. Pretty good stuff.
Any final words, final thoughts, or
Here's
are we?
the thing. I think
we got more.
One more thing. It might be better that person isn't from the Toronto area or has played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because you need new blood. You need people from the outside that have different eyes and a different perspective on what's going in that organization and in that dressing room right now.
So
that should be the key. Is not the people that have been inside and you promote from within. And I grew up here, so I've got I've got allegiance to this team. Bring in outsiders that are almost, somebody needs to be a sociopath and say, I'm cutting that person, getting rid of that person, trading that person. So that way you don't have any allegiance to what's been going on here.
So pretty much what you're saying is anyone from King City or Toronto.
My
is
last
ruled out.
comment
Could be out.
is
Outrageous commentary.
there was a
Unbelievable.
thought process about a certain hiring. I think the name was just mentioned, and the guy to your right is behaving just like him. If you hire that man to your right, you will pay dearly for it. All of us will pay for it. Remember that.
Okay.
I got chills hearing that. All right.
Listen, that's the kind of commentary you get from people that understand I'm the front runner.
Low energy.
Yeah, that's some guy who's polling at 2%. Low energy Jeff O'Neill. So there's no need to worry about him because no one's paying attention. And once we get through the primaries, this guy won't get through.
Yeah.
Say South Carolina. He won't get through like early primaries. This guy will disappear.
He'll pick up his ball and go home.
Yes, he will. So listen, I think the energy that's being directed towards me is probably going to tell you everything you need to do.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Do you want to bring JP in here?
I guess JP, all right.
How about we take a break and JP can name the new GM?
We'll come back and you have to name the new GM, all right? You don't have to give us a 1, 2, 3. It'll just be a drum roll who you would hire based on what you heard here
I
today.
can write it on a piece of paper
Or
and
I can
hand
write
it
it
to
on
you,
a piece
Hayes.
of paper and hand it to...
Let JP.
I think JP can come in, all right? We'll get to that. We got Panger coming up. We're giving away tickets to the RBC Canadian Open. And our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later this hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, JP.
Don't do it, JP.
JP, you're a man of integrity. And that's why you're the perfect man for the job. Because you've been listening to the three of us interview for the job, right?
Yeah.
Like the Grappler was playing the role of Shanahan, very presidential, great suit. And the three of us, I think we all made very compelling cases
arguments.
Yeah, exactly, for why we believe we'd take the job to a completely different level.
Let's just get to it. JP, you have the responsibility of naming the next general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Please announce who that will be.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of our little debate for that position is Jamie Noodles McLennan.
You're kidding.
Well, of course, because
You're kidding me. Did you pay him?
What do you mean?
Be honest.
Can I pay
did you pay
him?
JP?
I will say, for the point of clarification, Noodles had good points about specifically plans in multiple points of the year.
What about our points?
We had great plans.
You're talking about food.
And his last little bit won us over in terms of bringing in someone outside of the city to cut ties
What
with
do you
this
mean
idea.
won us over? Who's us?
I'm representing the board. I have to represent the board. I will say, though, Hayes did win over some members, and that's where the debate came in about Hayes or Noodles.
That's great. So O was not even close. O is Ross Perot is what
Can you confirm that I was in fact third on the list?
I hate to break it to you, but yes.
Remember the guy who didn't know who Aleppo was? Wasn't that Johnson?
That's so. What
David
was that
Johnson.
Yeah,
wasn't
something
it?
Johnson. And
what
is Aleppo?
Yeah.
That's the O-Dog. Oh, yeah, of course.
That guy was
Yeah,
running
gotcha.
for president.
And who is Austin Matthews? Oh, yeah.
What
I got
is
him.
Aleppo?
What is a salary cap?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
I graciously accept.
Well, congratulations.
You believe
Noodle.
that?
Hey, man.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
JP's a
good
man of
stuff.
integrity. You know that.
Yeah, exactly.
He is a
wasn't
man of
rigged
integrity.
at all.
He wouldn't possibly screw around there. All right, a classic emerges at Oakdale Golf and Country Club as it gets set to host the RBC Canadian Open June 6th through the 11th, right here in the heart of Toronto. Here's your chance to win a pair of tickets to be there, okay? Caller 10 right now at 416-870-1050. Caller 10 at 416-870-1050. You're going to win the tickets. You're heading to the RBC Canadian Open.
That'll
It's
be
go
awesome.
time. You'll catch the best golfers in the world as they battle it out at Canada's lone PGA Tour stop. Also back this year is the RBC Music Concert Series featuring Grammy Award winners Black Eyed Peas and Alanis Morissette.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks. First up in Overdrive, we'll be broadcasting on site all week. So if you're hanging around, come say hi, right? We'll be on the 14th. 14th
this will
tee.
be awesome. We'll
That's
get
the
to
hockey
meet
hole,
them.
par 3. It's going to be a lot of action there. So there you go. Caller 10 at 416-870-1050. Maybe get a chance to talk to the president himself, too, the Grappler.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, the Grappler hand.
Well, you know what? Like, I feel like our next guest would be interested in how things went for you guys at the RBC Open.
Yeah,
Oakville
possibly.
today.
I think he'd be interested in the GM pursuit, too.
That's
Maybe
true.
Panger's a guy that's in the running.
He might be.
He could
Smart
be.
guy, well-connected, well-spoken.
Absolutely.
All about relationships.
All about
I love it.
relationships.
He'd get my vote.
He'd get my vote, too, from the NHL on TNT. Here's our buddy Darren Pang. You interested in being a GM up here, Panger, or what?
No.
Okay.
I like the well-spoken part. I like the, well-connected. Noodles, I like the fact that I got your support. I would expect nothing less from a fellow goalie. But, I lost enough hair with Mike Keenan as my coach. How do you think I do as a manager there?
Yeah, it'd be tough, man. It's it's a big market. We're not telling you anything you don't know, Panger. It's a big market. It's a big responsibility. It does seem to be a lot of people that want the gig.
If that was the market I was in, and I was an experienced manager, and I'd been through maybe a couple of teams, or I won a championship somewhere, and I had the chance to be a manager in a major market, in a major Canadian city like that, I think anybody would relish that opportunity, to be quite honest with you. I mean, why wouldn't you? We all want to be highly competitive. We all wanted to win Stanley Cups as players. We all wanted to put ourselves in the most intense situations as players. Why wouldn't we as a manager? That'd be my opinion. It's not for me, because that's not my job. I'm just not a manager.
How important, Darren, do you think it is? We've been talking to MJ and a bunch of different people that they get the new general manager in place here pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would think so too, because, let's face it, any of the current general managers, the ownership group that, let's say, allows somebody to leave if they're currently under contract, well, you wouldn't be involved in any major decision making, I wouldn't think, until, July 1? So, and if you go to somewhere else where there are a lot of guys that have great experience that just aren't managers right now, they got to get to work. For sure. But, I would say it's sooner rather than later. Sure. To put it lightly. You can't wait too long. You've got a lot of stuff to do. I talk to friends of mine that are managers all the time. They're in amateur meetings are today, tomorrow. Pro scouting meetings are the next day. Then they got to get ready for, at least I think they canceled the GM meetings that were supposed to be in Nashville somewhere between, the final, the awards, and the draft. And so they pushed that aside. And I think the Board of Governors meetings might be in there. And I might be mistaken on that. But these managers have a lot of stuff going on right now. There's just a great deal of pressure on them, great deal of day-to-day intensity. And some of them have other contracts that are expired. Keep in mind all the day-to-day activities they have. You could have 8 pro scouts that are contracts are ending July 1. You could have coaches in the minor leagues that you got to resign. It's not just a job in which you just show up and sit behind a nice leather desk and watch a Golf Channel all day. You got to grind it out and work. And this time of year more than any other time of year, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and yet you still got some games to watch, even if you are, one of the 30 teams not in the Stanley Cup playoffs, because now the Stanley Cup final has been established here. And I'm curious if you feel like, the books have got it right. FanDuel's got Vegas at -140 to win the series. Does that feel right to you, Darren, that Vegas is a favorite, a clear-cut favorite here? Or based on what Florida's done through 3 rounds, could you see them possibly holding that moniker too?
Absolutely. I'm going to take the under on that one. I really am. I'm going to go with the team that doesn't know how to go away, and that's the Florida Panthers. They don't know what that means. They've got a certain thick layer of skin that is as resilient as I've seen in a while. And by the way, they've come together at the right time. They're playing a real strong team game, and they've got the best goaltender in the matchup. So, I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to stick with the Florida Panthers on this. I like the D of Vegas. I love their coach because he's been a teammate of mine on 5 different teams. But there's just something, and maybe it's because I broadcast more of the East in the playoffs. Maybe it's because I saw that team firsthand. I was between the benches for Game 7 in Boston, then I did a large part of the series against Toronto. You know what it's like, guys. You're around it. Maybe you lean more towards that team because you've just seen them up close and you've seen how resilient they are, and that's the feeling I get from the Florida Panthers at this particular point.
Pang, are you concerned about the 9-10 day layoff for the Panthers? I know Barkov was nicked up, so it's probably good to let some bumps and bruises heal, but is there a sweet spot where you'd like to kind of get back at it? Especially, we were talking about it yesterday, not so much the players that can get rolling, but Bob was just in such a groove for him to fire it right back up. Maybe that 10 days, it might take him a little bit to get that timing and feel back in that game feel. You know what it's like.
Yeah, that is the part. I know. I don't know about you, Noodles, but I was a rhythmic kind of guy, and if I lost a little of that rhythm, and I'm a terrible dancer, but I can imagine being a really good dancer, losing some rhythm, and being a bad dancer. That's kind of where I was as a goalie. So yes, that part of it does scare me a little bit. I remember when we worked so hard to get to the Memorial Cup, we had to beat Kitchener because they were hosting, and we had to be the OHL champions just to get in and be the fourth team. And we were playing every other night, and we were on a roll. I think we might have went 11-1 getting in, and then bang, we had a break. We start up that first game, and don't I get I got pulled right away. I never really found my game. We were fortunate; we had a great team, and we end up winning it. But that's my best example personally that I could use, Noodles. And so Bob is a different guy. He didn't play a lot. Alex Lyon played a lot, and then bang, Bob goes in, and he didn't play well in Game 4. I didn't think. He made that great save in Game 5 with a second to go on Marchand. Otherwise, the season is over, and it's a walk-off home run. And then played really well in 6-7 and hasn't looked back since then. So, maybe he's got that different mentality too, Noodles, with all that he's gone through in the NHL, good and bad.
Panger, I know you're familiar with the Tkachuk family being in St. Louis. Like, what a tremendous story, and what a turnaround for Billy Zito, where he probably might have got gassed if they missed the playoffs. Who knows? Because, I mean, when you think about it, like, it's just, he kind of said, I'm going to change this dynamic, and he thought that was necessary for them to take another step. They bring in Matthew, and now he's the talk of the playoffs. That's just, it's an unbelievable story how it went from this thing might just be a mess to what they have in front of them right now.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and maybe that's another reason why I'm leaning towards the Tkachuk-led team, because we got this famous bar in St. Louis called O.B. Clark's, and you can see Big Walt wears his O.B. hat, and Brady wears it, and Matthew wears it. So I wouldn't want the entire ownership of O.B. Clark's going against me, but going towards like Matthew and what he does too, he galvanizes everybody. Like even when they were presenting, the Eastern Conference championship trophy to the team. I don't know about you guys, but my eyes were focused on one guy, and it was Tkachuk. He's the guy that's looking at everybody, kind of pointing. He's the one that kind of, like, we're all getting together here. Like, he doesn't have a C, but he is a C. He's a captain. And he reminds me a little bit in my experience broadcasting St. Louis when, like, Alex Pietrangelo was the captain, and he wore the C, rightfully so. But I thought Alex Steen was always the captain. Everybody went to Alex Steen. Everybody, we got answers, Steen, and that's not taken away from Petro. That's just the way Steen was, and I think that's just the way Tkachuk is. But the other guys, too, like, who would have thought bringing Mark Stahl? He spent a couple of years, 3 years with Detroit. They were going through that tough time. Steve brought him in there, and he played well for them, but who would have bet on that being a number 2 pairing with Brandon Montour? Like, Forsling's a good player. He's a waiver guy. Mahura, same thing from Anaheim. Gudas, been around a lot of teams. Somehow this really works. The left side and the right side works really, really well. And then there's, then you've got, Eric Stahl in the middle of the fourth line. He's kind of a co-captain, a director of player personnel, whatever you want to call it. He's kind of the conscience of the team, the bench. That's what I found out when I was doing the series. Like, when the coach needed something, he just had to look at number 12's eyes and find out what it was. And if he spoke, then Paul Maurice stepped back. Like, so they've got a really interesting dynamic and a few players that people don't even give enough respect to, like Luostarinen and Lundell. Like, those are really good players that not a whole lot of people talk about, but that's a really good third line with Reinhart on the right side.
With Darren Pang of the NHL on TNT, there's a coaching carousel going on, Panger, and we talked about this earlier, today, that you look at what happened in Vegas and in Florida. They turned their coaches over last year, and both of them have gotten to a Cup final. This happens a lot in pro sports. There always is turnover, but you get the impression, like, based on what Vegas has done with Cassidy and what Florida's done with Maurice, that in a copycat league, other teams, especially upper echelon teams, could feel like maybe that's a play that they should look into.
Well, it's amazing that of all the times to throw the carousel around and not get criticized, it was probably this year. I mean, how many people got on social media or got on radio shows, I'm sure with you guys, or just talking, just pot stoving about hockey, saying, oh, my goodness, can you believe that, this guy went here after he was there, and Gerard Gallant goes there, and Bruce Cassidy goes there, and Pete DeBoer ended up there, and yet they all had great seasons. like that to me was impressive. It just says that they're really good coaches as well. But, you know, like just like last year when like Steve Yzerman didn't go to a major guy, he went to, you know, an assistant coach and picked Newsy Lalonde. And now you've got Spencer Carberry gets picked up by the Washington Capitals. So the good news is there's hope for some of the, you know, young aspiring assistant coaches and maybe guys like Brad Shaw that's been around a long time and Kirk Muller. You've seen names, and Andrew Burnett. It looks to me like that's a foregone conclusion if it hasn't been announced already to go to Nashville. So, I mean, you know, you got a good group of assistant coaches that are getting their chance, and then you've got some veteran head coaches that are just flat out good coaches. If you want to sleep at night and you're a general manager and you want to win 2 of every 3 games, there's still a lot of those veteran guys that can do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
opportunity. That's what it is. Really.
Absolutely.
Give guys opportunities, and they can flourish in their new environment.
Yeah, Doug Armstrong always says to me, you guys, he says it quite a bit, and he uses this line a lot, but he's like you're the general manager driving home from a game. Like, you want to sleep well at night. Like, it's a hard enough job as it is, but you want to go to bed at night. You want to have a good sleep. And, you know, when you win 3 or 4, you sleep really well. When you win 1 and 4 every day now you're waking up early in the morning. Now you're getting to the office. Now you're grinding. Now you're watching practice a little bit harder than you normally watch practice. I mean, so there's a comfort with these guys that know how to win. The Washington Capitals will look at Spencer, and there's an unknown there. Like, he's run the power play. You know, he's been a head coach in other places, but not at this level. So for Brian McLellan, there's going to be some type of, you know, anxiety early to see how he manages the bench, how he handles his stars, how he, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So, but I'm glad that they're getting that opportunity, and I'd like to see more good assistant coaches that have been around a long time. I mentioned too Bradshaw and Kirk Muller as examples to get that opportunity, at least to see if they can do it with all the other guys that get so many chances at it.
Always great catching up with you, Darren. We appreciate you finding time for us, buddy. Enjoy the Cup final, and we'll do it again soon.
That sounds awfully good. Keep talking about golf, fellas, okay?
Yes,
Keep talking about golf. I love it.
Yeah, just a little reference point. Only 2 of the 3 of us know what you're talking about, Darren. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, O-Dog. I appreciate it, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, Panger. Yeah, he's just, I should have came over the top. He's just rattled because I beat him today. Yeah. And now he's got to live with that the rest of his life.
Yeah, I lost a couple of times to you today.
Yeah, because he was.
I came 3rd in the GM
Ross
voting,
Perot.
and apparently you beat me on the golf course.
Well, not apparently. I mean, that's just a straight fact. Yeah, if you X out and then leave, that's DFA.
Got to find that guy's name. Was it David Johnson? That was the Aleppo.
Yeah, Aleppo dog.
Gary Johnson.
Jerry Johnson.
He
was asked about Aleppo and did not know anything
and
about it.
what is Aleppo? Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm on the over in the Jays game tonight. You got to pay some juice. 9 runs is the total. Got Kikuchi and Hauser on the mound. Kikuchi, I feel like maybe – I think the bats are going to come alive. That's a big part of it. I think the Jays bats, they're back home. It's so due to happen and for them to break out. I think it happens tonight. Rays in the north side of Chicago playing the Cubs tonight. McClanahan on the mound. I'm on the under in that game. Now, Hendricks has only had 1 start. It was not good for the Cubs. But McClanahan is a sub-2 ERA. He's a stud. Every 5th day he's out there, he's a stud. I'm on the under, 8.5. All right, those are your best bets today, brought to you by FanDuel, and the first inning means as much as the 9th inning when you bet baseball in the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. Come back and try to squeeze in, confirm or deny after dark. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Oh, I can neither confirm or deny that.
All right, here we go. A little confirm or deny after dark. Time now for one more
horny
confirm or deny. You guys ready for this? We've been talking a lot about coaches today. The coaching carousel in the NHL. Confirm or deny. By the end of next season, one of Mike Babcock or Daryl Sutter will be back behind an NHL bench.
By the end of next season?
Yes.
I think Babcock's going to be back right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't
I'll
think Daryl
confirm
will
it. I'll confirm it. I think Daryl probably wants to spend some time on the farm. Maybe he goes to the farm permanently, collect a few bucks and run that operation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Babs will be back. I think that he probably needs to have a a little talking to where the nonsense in the past ain't going to fly, but I'm sure he understands that. He'd be crazy if he wasn't.
Yep.
But I think he'll be back because, like I said, as far as coaching hockey,
he can do it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
No debating that.
Confirm he's back, and I think he's back sooner than by the end of next season.
Interesting. Although we're seeing, names are starting to pop up. Guys are starting to get hired. There's only so many vacancies at this point. But I will confirm it as well. It seems like it's Babcock. Sutter, I don't think, is coming back anytime soon. But he is a classic candidate for like a December 12th hiring, right? Like bad start, high expectations, you're out, Babcock comes in.
Yeah. I also like the Washington hire. I like bringing this guy in.
Give him a shot.
Because it's a fresh start, it's a fresh voice, and who knows, maybe he's an unbelievable coach that needed a chance.
Yep. Confirmed tonight. Brought to you by Don Valley North Lexus. Right now, lease the 2023 IS300 all-wheel Drive F Sports Series 1 from just $298 bi-weekly for 24 months. Visit DonValleyNorthLexus.com for all the details. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes except for JP. Thank you, Grappler. Very presidential.
Yeah, very good work.
We're out of here.
JP.
Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Hazy B, you will make nothing great again. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.